Hey, how we doing, everybody? This is Nick from Gifts and Gadgets. Just wanting to start off the new year with a video of spoilers for the new set from Ravnica Allegiance. So what we're going to do is we're going to go through the rares and then some notable promos at the very end, and just kind of talk about them from my perspective. I primarily play Modern, but I've been dabbling in Standard as well, and a little bit of Commander. So let's jump right in. First card is Emergency Powers. Blue, white, and 5, instant. When it says each player shuffles their hand and graveyard into their library, then draw 7 cards, exile it, and then amend them. If the spell is cast during your main phase, you may play a permanent card with converted mana cost 7 or less from your hand onto the battlefield. It's a very interesting card. It has kind of a Wheel of Fortune kind of effect to it, but being an instant speed and being in a control colors, this actually has a pretty strong chance of seeing play in Constructed Standard, and I guarantee you'll see plenty of play in Commander as well. So very, very cool. I don't see it getting to Modern in any real capacity, just because the 7-drop cost, and you actually, you have to do it at the end of their turn, so you don't get the 7-drop effect. But, we've all been proven wrong before. There may be some kind of blue-white Tron variant or some craziness that could happen. So, let's move on to Groll Spellbreaker. Red, green, and 1 for 3/3. It has Riot. First time actually seeing the Groll mechanic. This creature enters the battlefield with your choice of a 1/1 counter or haste. Interestingly enough, this is not a triggered ability, so they can't bolt it in response to the trigger, which is nice. And also it keeps haste for the duration of its actual life. So for certain things that say, that check for haste, and some things that may actually be extremely relevant, or if it gets taken, it still actually has haste. So pretty good card, but has even more abilities. Let's see. Trample, and also as long as it is your turn, you and it have hexproof. So this is going to be extremely powerful card. It also is a great deterrent against Settle the Wreckage. So I see this being probably one of the kind of premier cards that will see play excuse me, in Standard. I see this a little bit even in Commander for some of the more aggro decks, and I actually do see this for maybe a budget option or a zoo option in Modern. I really like this card. I think it's super unique and a very well designed card. Next, we have Afreeze. I think this actually has a different pronunciation to it. Let me get the actual English version here. Bedevil. There we go. Black, red. You destroy target artifact creature or planeswalker at instant speed. This is people have been talking about this kind of as a replacement to Dreadbore, having more options. My only concern with this card is that let's get out of the way. Standard, this card's going to be insane. This is a really good option for even more removal for the Jund colors. You will see this card all over the place. This will be a very good answer for rotation and stuff like that down the line. This card is going to be insane for that. Now, when it comes to Modern aspects, I do see this having a place at least in budget option, but I do not think this will knock off Kolaghan's Command as a card, because you get so much value out of Kolaghan's Command most of the time. But it's still a great piece. I think it's also an awesome card just to have for the Commander players out there as well. Next, moving on, we have Zingata, Utopian Speaker, green, blue, and 2, my favorite color combination. Legendary creature, Merfolk Wizard. When she enters the battlefield, if you control another creature with a +1/++ counter on it, draw a card. Instant value. I like that in these colors. It's a nice little added effect. Let's keep reading. Green, blue, and 4, you get Adapt 4. If this has no +1/+ counters on it, and you pay that cost, you can put 4 +1/+ counters on it. Alright, that's pretty good. So for a total investment of 10 mana, you get an 8/8 Trampler. So each creature you control with a +1/+ counter on it has Trample. It's not that bad overall. I have to see where they go with the adaptability, but being the first week of spoilers, I think it's okay for right now. Alright, going down the line, we have Simic Ascendancy For a blue and green, it's an enchantment. For blue, green, and 1, you can put a +1/++ counter on target creature you control. And whenever one or more +1/++ counters are put on a creature you control, put that many growth counters on Simic Ascendancy. At the beginning of your upkeep, if Simic Ascendancy has 20 or more growth counters on it, you win the game. These alternate win con cards are always kind of like a trap most of the time. So for example, this one, if you're putting 20 power and toughness of counters on your creatures, you should already probably be in a commanding position of the game already without this card just saying, hey, you win the game. Is it unique? Is it different? Absolutely. Is it going to see play in Commander? Oh yeah, there's going to be plenty of decks that are going to abuse the heck out of this card, and there's going to be a lot of great wins that just come from this card alone. So we'll get that out of the way. Other than that, the ability is too expensive. If it said do that and like draw a card, it definitely would have had a chance to see play. But it's kind of like your typical Simic rare, not having too much of a chance after that. Next, we have Linvala, Azorius Renegade for a white and blue. Each opponent can't cast non-creature spells with converted mana cost greater than the number of lands that player controls. Whenever an opponent casts a spell, if no mana was spent to cast it, counter that spell. This is a very interesting card. I don't know where this card wants to be, and I don't know if it's good enough to actually be a sideboard option in Modern Constructed. In Standard, I think it's a great option to see what kind of free spells come out of the different abilities or different mechanics that haven't been spoiled yet. But I don't know if this is going to be good enough to be in some sideboards or be in some main boards for Modern. I do see it stopping things like X spells. I see it stopping things different, like things like Dredge and those assortments. But I don't know specifically. And when I say stopping things from Dredge, I mean there's a very, very select few certain things that I believe are actually cast, and most of them are just put into play. So, and I may be wrong on that specifically, but so it's gonna be hard to see if this actually sees a play anywhere. If it had if it was like a 1/4 or something like that, I think it would have a better chance. But being a 2/2, this may just be doomed, sadly. But we can have hope. Next is Tithe Taker. During your turn, spells your opponents cast cost 1 more to cast, and abilities your opponents activate cost 1 more to activate unless they're mana abilities. He's a 2-mana, 2/1 with Afterlife, which is the Azorius ability. When this creature dies, create a 1/1 white and black spirit creature token with flying. This is a okay card. Sadly, it says during your turn only, so it doesn't have the kind of Thalia effect that you really want from a card like this. Interestingly enough, it does have the Afterlife, so you get value that way. It will be a good budget option for Hate Bears. I don't see it getting mainboard play or even sideboard play in a tier deck in Modern. In Standard, I do see it being a good sideboard answer for some of the Boros aggro, even some of the white weenie. So we have hope. Next up, we have Rixmadi Reveler. Red and 1 human shaman for a 2/2. It has Spectacle, which is black, red, and 2. You may cast a spell for a Spectacle cost rather than its mana cost if an opponent lost life this turn. I don't know why I couldn't read there for a second. When Rixmadi Reveler enters the battlefield, discard a card, then draw a card. If Rixmadi Reveler a Spectacle cost was paid, instead discard your hand and then draw 3 cards. This is a very interesting card. I'm really hoping that there is some kind of madness effect that is going to kind of make a resurgence, because I really, really like to see something with that. But I feel like they want this to be a powerful effect, and I'm just not sure if it is. Playing 4 mana to discard your hand and only get 3 cards is pretty weak in most aspects, but we'll have to see how it turns out for at least Standard play. Down the line, we have Haunt of Hightower, black for 4 for a 3/3 flyer with lifelink. Whenever it attacks, defending player discards a card. It is an attack trigger, so that is relevant. Whenever a creature is put into your opponent's graveyard from anywhere, put a +1/+ counter on him. So the relevant thing is that it says from anywhere. So if you cause them to discard the creature with his own ability, or if you cause, for example, maybe to mill them, or a creature dies, they try to trade, all these things are going to give him counters. Sadly, I don't think it's going to be good enough just because he starts off with original 3 toughness, and that is not, with lightning strikes running around, it's going to be pretty hard to convince that. Same thing with lava coil and everything else. So it's going to be pretty hard to get this guy to stick on the board. If you do, and he actually does get past that crucial 5 toughness area, it is going to be ridiculous. Alright, that is the end of the rares for the current spoilers. Next, we have promos. These are all, there's one common, 2 uncommons. The first one is Growth Spiral, which is green-blue instant. It says draw a card. You may put a land card from your hand onto the battlefield. I've done a little bit of testing with this in current standard decks, and even some basic testing in some modern decks. This card is actually a lot more powerful than I thought it was going to be, just because it doesn't say it enters tapped, and it also, being at instant speed, a lot of what the draws turned out to be was turn 2, pass, end of your turn, Growth Spiral into land into opt, or if you play Teamer, you could bolt. If you're playing something else, there's a lot of other options there. It's a very, very interesting card to play. Do I see it going kind of deep into the meta? I don't think so, but I'm really hoping that there's more lands matter cards coming from Simic that will make this a lot more relevant. But so far, beautiful card, really, really fun to play. I really, really like the card a lot. Next, we have Mortify. Really, really cool card. So you have black, white, and 1 instant, destroy target creature or enchantment. Really clean, get rid of it spell. This is kind of the bread and butter of Orzhov. A little bit of splash there to get rid of enchantment. I like cards like this. They seem very basic, but they really fill a void that needed. Next, we have Light Up the Stage, which is red and 2, sorcery. Or you can Spectacle for red, which again is if they lost life this turn, your opponent, you can pay that cost instead of a 3. Exile the top 2 cards of your library. Until the end of your next turn, you may play those cards. Really cool about this is you can actually play the lands if there was a revealed. So you can play lands, which is really nice. Also, it allows red to kind of have pseudo card draw in a weird way for pretty cheap. So this has a really interesting chance to see if there's any more mechanics with exiled cards specifically, or if red wants to have this 1 mana draw 2 kind of effect. As a prior burn player, I used to play a lot of burn. It'll be interesting to see if this could actually take a spot of some of the more flex cards in any of those decks. I think it could. It definitely has a budget option, but I'm not sure because typically you're going to want to go like, 1 mana Lightning Bolt, 1 mana this, and then you're only going to probably be able to play 1 of the spells there, maybe 2 depending on how you set your deck up. That being said, I do like this card having the Spectacle cost of 1 red that becomes very, very relevant, and it means that you may only have to attack them and spend 1 red to draw 2, which is a very interesting effect. I know it's not drawing cards, but it's pretty much the same in a red deck if you set yourself up with that converted mana cost of 3 or less. So I want to play with this card in some kind of burn deck in standard, possibly even try it in some weird variants in modern. But alright, that's it for me today. Thanks so much everybody for hanging out. I'm going to try to be putting these videos out for different deck ideas, and as spoilers release I will be making them, so stay tuned. Thanks so much. Bye.